How's everybody doing?
Good.
Good. Let's run around the room real quick and just remind everybody of your name real quick.
I'm Amanda.
I'm Debbie. Isaac.
I'm Clarissa.
Donna.
All right. Today our topic is going to be on creating your professional profile, and it's busy things that we'll do today. And I'll ask you also for each activity that we work on, just to give some feedback about yourself. And in this topic of creating your professional profile, by the time that we're finished today, we'll have a handout at the very end of this section under tab 2, where you will be able to take all the information that you've worked on today and fill in this professional profile page. And you'll see that this will be information that you'll use on your resume, in interviewing, in your cover letters, etc. So we just kind of go at a pace that gives you time to start on gathering all this information about yourself. You're going to gather it out of your brain, but there might be some parts that will come to and you'll feel like that you have more that you want to make note of, write down. And so feel free to take some time, between this week and next week, if you don't have everything filled in just exactly the way you want, take some time to finish it over the next week. So as we get going here, it's always my challenge to have this behind me. Just a couple things that I would like to point out, that when we talk about creating your professional profile, I just really want you to keep in mind that for the most part, you as a majority are career changers. Sometimes I think it's easy to sort of fall into that thinking that because you're going to go into a new career that you don't have, I don't have that experience to offer a potential employer, but you have lots of other work experience that's very valuable over someone who hasn't had any lifetime work experience. So as we move through, especially the activities of today, to really keep that in mind so that you capture the things about yourself that you feel like in any interviewing situation, in any cover letter that you write, that you have this information covered, just really continually thinking that what are some things about myself that I always want to make sure that a potential employer gets to learn about me as I go through the interview process with them. So career changer, and also the things that we work on today, you'll see that these are things that we're going to go over that a lot of your stories can come from, especially the first activity that we're going to do. And it was just fun yesterday in Stockton. there was a student in the group yesterday, and the week before we talked about the PAR story or example format to use. And I guess the first week she maybe didn't really understand that format. And so something we were working on yesterday, and then all of a sudden, because I was just, looking out at the group, because I'll be quiet sometimes today while you're working. And all of a sudden she just looked up and she looked at me and she had that aha, the light bulb moment. All of a sudden she's like, oh, I understand how to use that now. And then she's just writing away. So, so keep in mind too, that this is the things that we'll work on today will really help you start to build your stories that will be your support, your examples of things that you want to tell about in your interviewing times. So just a few things to keep in mind as we work on these are that, again, as career changers, you want to note your accomplishments and previous work experience. This is what will help you really make you competitive. Wish I had eyes on the side of my head too, Also on page 1 here, as we go through the worksheet that we will on the next page, I want you to keep in mind to, when it asks for accomplishments, to really try to keep things that are specific and measurable, things that you can really put a statistic to, or a percentage, or a number, or an outcome associated with it. Next is to quantify things whenever possible. It's one thing to tell somebody about a success, but when you can, say that you, for example, increase sales by a certain percentage, or that sometimes people say, like, supervised other people. Well, how many people did you supervise? Did you supervise 2 other people or 22 other people? And there's a difference. Both are great, but when you can quantify something like that, you give a little more oomph to it. Next here is to use superlatives. If you've got things in your experience that are, you were the first person to do that, or you did it the best, even if that you feel like that's just your opinion, but you can really qualify what you're talking about, use those sort of words. If you were the most or the highest at something, and some people feel like, oh my gosh, sounds like I would be bragging, or sounds like it's arrogant or something, but there's always a way to state it. So if you have something, or a bunch of things that you feel that way about some of your work experience, but you're not quite sure how to state that, then let's talk about it. How do you put that on your resume? How do you put that in a cover letter? How do you talk about that in an interview without it coming across in your own opinion? Sometimes it's pretty hard to toot our own horn, right? But there's not going to be some little angel on your shoulder doing that in an interview. So we'll work on how you put those words together. Next here is, for every accomplishment that you want to talk about, especially as we move through the activities today, ask yourself that little question in the back of your mind. So what? What if I'm telling in an interview a potential employer this characteristic about me or this ability? So what? What does it matter to them? Toward the end of today, we're going to talk about a concept called features and benefits of you. What are features about you that would be valuable to an employer? But more than just telling the feature, I want to tell the benefit. Why would that be important or valuable to that potential employer? Because expressing that is what makes you more competitive. And, it always comes up, truthfully so. We'll exclude Isaac for a minute. I don't think he has gray hair anywhere on his head. But, we get to the point where we are thinking that I'm older and I have to compete against younger people. And so you always want to have that in the back of your mind. How am I going to compete? And so to really have your stories and examples nailed down and showing the benefit to the employer can give you a lot of mileage. And one thing that people will say, and this is nowhere printed here, so if you like what I'm about to say, write it down. Sometimes people are concerned about being told, oh, well, you seem overqualified. So right there, someone's put an objection in front of you. They put up a wall, that's negative. So we want to turn it positive. So I think that some easy words to use right away to say, oh, thank you for recognizing that I'm well qualified. I like that. Because there's lots of people out there that are in this day and age, they are very highly qualified for some jobs. Okay, overqualified, but they're willing to accept them. You know, they need them, they want them. I say, if you notice, like, I don't know, between 5 and 10 years ago, who worked at McDonald's? All the high school kids, right?
No.
5 years ago, 4 years ago, who worked at McDonald's? All the 20 and young 30-year-old stay-at-home moms while their kids were at school, right? And who works there now overall? 40, 50-year-old moms. Customer service is great, huh? They actually look you in the eye and smile and say, because I go get iced tea every day almost. Thank you. You have a great day. I mean, they really do, and they mean it, you know? And so that's who we're competing against now, not just, you know, like the 20-year-olds anymore. So thank you for recognizing that I'm well qualified. Okay. Next, make sure that each accomplishment is relevant to the type of job you're seeking. That's important, and now I'm going to throw in a but. As you develop your stories and your examples, some of your stories and examples are not going to be totally relevant, but think about, because they're going to come from something that's entirely different. But think about, how can I make this relevant to this job? Because if you've been in a work environment and you've been in a conflict resolution type situation, and you can tell what that situation was, and you can tell what your actions were, these are only good ones, you know, but what your actions were and what the results, the outcome was, then you can make it relevant to the interview that you're having, to the work experience, to the job that you want to go into. So always having in the back of your mind, how can I make this relevant? All right, next here. Just a little side note, and there is a very popular style of interviewing going on today. It's called interviewing the resume. So you may walk into an interview and you sit down, and you might be used to the interviewer having a whole list of questions. Sometimes HR folks, they have a whole list of questions that they're required to ask. They got to put a little check mark, check, ask them all. You might walk in and the only thing you see in front of them is your resume. And they just start right at the top. It's sort of like, nice to meet you. Tell me about yourself. They'll start right at the top and they'll say, tell me about this job. Totally open-ended. Okay, what do you want to know? They want to see what you come up with. Mm-hmm. So again, keep it in your mind. Okay, so what about this job that can be relevant, that I can make relevant to the job that I'm interviewing for? And maybe it's not necessarily as career changers, it's not necessarily the hard skills, tasks that you did at previous jobs, because you're looking into doing something completely different, but play up more of your soft skills. You know, that was a job where I'm going to pick on you ladies in medical billing, where I just have a lot of responsibility, paying attention to lots of details and blah, blah, blah. And the benefit of that is that as I move into medical billing, and then you tell the benefit of that. So that's how you make it relevant. It comes from an entirely different background of work, but you're pushing it over into this new area of work that you want to go into. And another time that you'll see this interviewing the resume is when you get a phone call. You sent your resume out and you get a phone call, and you think, in the first moment, you think, oh, they're calling to schedule me for an interview, yay. And then all of a sudden you realize they're asking you questions. And so that's just an easy way to have like a 15 or 20 minute over the phone interview. It's a screening interview to see if they do want to invite you in. I just had somebody recently say they were so excited because they got called, and that's what they thought, and it turned out to be a little phone interview. And at the end, they didn't move forward with them. They didn't invite them in. They felt, you know, we all have had that happen. It's a letdown. But be ready, because sometimes they just start asking you to tell things from your resume. It's very open-ended and general. And, you know, you've got this line of thinking that you want to line it up with what they're looking for. Okay, next. Any veterans in our group? I don't think so. Not that I know of. Okay, so we'll go on here. All right, let's turn the page. There's something else I was going to mention real quick. slittered through my mind, but it didn't land long enough for me to remember. Well, let me think for a second. I know you ladies can all relate to that, so I'm in good company. Interview the resume, and I don't know, it'll come to me in a minute. Okay, on the next 2 pages, you'll see that there are 19 questions. And what I'd like to do here is spend about 1 minute on each question. I'll just read it out loud, and then whatever comes to your mind, I want you to just make a note to yourself about. This is like a brainstorm sort of activity. Don't analyze it a lot. Don't try to write a paragraph, but this is information that's going to draw some of your strengths, some of your transferable skills, different things like that out of you to think about so that you can use these in your stories and on capture for your resume and interviewing. And if you have any question about any of them as we go along, please feel free to ask that, okay? I have one. Yay. Okay. So I'll just read the question and then I'll be quiet while you think. Every once in a while I have a little thing to add. Okay, question number 1. In this job, and that means any job that comes to your mind from your past experience, in this job, what special things did you do to set yourself apart? How did you do the job better than anyone else did or than anyone else could have done? Just whatever pops into your mind. And if that feels hard, you could say, how did you do the job? What's something that you did really well in the job? All right, number 2. What did you do to make this job your own? How did you take the initiative? How did you go above and beyond what was asked of you in your job description? Number 3. What special things did you do to impress your boss so that you might be promoted? Number 4. And were you promoted? Rapid and or frequent promotions can be especially noteworthy. I find oftentimes people don't put information about being promoted on their resume, and it's really valuable to include that. So keeping that in mind, as we get ready to start on resumes next week, just keep that in mind because there's a way that you can note that in your job description. Number 5, how has the organization benefited from your performance? How will you leave the employer better off than before you worked there? Number 6, list any awards you won, such as Employee of the Month, President's Club. Those sound kind of official. This could even be making note of a letter or a note that you received thanking you for something in your work environment. So something from very sort of casual, like that, up to any sort of bigger company recognitions. Number 7, what are you the most proud of in this job? What job comes to mind that you have? And it doesn't even have to be something that you received even an award or recognition for, but just something that you're really proud of in a job. Number 8, I don't know who has these. I won't ask for a show of hands. Here, I'm up here talking about it, and I don't have any of this. Check your annual performance reviews. Do you have those? Yes, good. That's excellent that you've kept them because you can go back and look. So check your annual performance reviews for this job, whatever job comes to your mind. Provide below any glowing or even complimentary quotes from your reviews. Did you consistently receive high ratings?
We used to have to self-evaluate ourselves, and they would take pretty much what we wrote and put it in our review, so whatever. Glowing thing I wrote about myself is usually what they put in the.
So you can tell whatever you want here.
I know.
That's sort of like talking to yourself, huh? You get the best answers.
Well, I used to say, Debbie was this. It made it easier than I did this. And I always said, Debbie was good.
Oh gosh, then they only had to like copy and paste it. They didn't have to change the tense or.
Well, I changed it to I, but when I was writing it, I made it easier.
That's very nice.
Huh?
That's very nice of you.
Yeah.
I remember one time I asked someone for a letter of recommendation and he told me, you write it, I'll sign it. I'm like, no way. Okay.
It's funny because letters of recommendation are hard to come by this time around because people are so worried about either giving you a glowing performance and you're not performing in the job they're recommending for you to, so now they're limiting to just your pertinent employment record, meaning you worked this month and ended this month, and maybe even are you rehireable? Maybe even then. It's very limited now because of legal stuff.
Yeah, and one thing that you'll see is happening more and more, which is giving HR, it used to be, and I think it sort of still is, people want to try to get around HR in an interviewing process and get to somebody that actually would be your boss or do the hiring, make the hiring decision. So HR is really, in a lot of companies, playing more of a role now because they're using a lot of automated systems that make things easier. And so there is, if you haven't heard of this, there are new software programs that when they ask you for your references, instead of the old-fashioned dial them up and have a phone call, now your references can be sent a questionnaire. And the questionnaire is a bunch of questions that ask the person doing the reference to evaluate you in doing things that are important to this company you're interviewing with, kind of their keyword things, things that are important. And they're asking your reference to evaluate you using like a Likert scale, like 1, never saw this person do this, all the way up to 5, worked with this person every day doing this. So they're evaluating very objectively instead of the more subjective review, what they've seen you do or experienced with you doing, etc. And these people, the references now can even mail these back anonymously, email them back anonymously. So let's say you submit your 3 references and they each receive an email with this questionnaire. When they come back, then a computer program goes through and just checks all the 1 through 5 numbers and gives a report, and that's the reference check.
Is that a screening process now?
Yeah, a lot of times it's getting used up front. Oh, no, it's like you don't even need human beings, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody got like 5s or whatever, then they could get one of those automated dialers and dial them up and say, you've got an interview. Mm-hmm. So that's why, check with those people that you're sending as your references,
Should they really like you?
and that they're people that really, that you can provide, that have really worked with you and worked on things together, have seen you in action, that can really
attest to you
without marking you down like at 1 or 2 or 3, so.
And you wouldn't want to give a reference of someone who didn't interact with you.
Okay, well.
Really, I mean, come on. You want that
sometimes
a reference represents who you've actually interacted with in that company.
Right. But some people think, I'll ask Sally because we were friends at work.
No.
Yeah.
These are professional references.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
But I think sometimes people think of that in the context of who I worked with, not necessarily that we worked together and they could testify to, my abilities, etc. It's like we went to lunch together and we were friends at work. Okay. So just keeping that in mind, that now it's going to take all the humanness out of it, and doesn't matter like, well, she had a steep learning curve, but man, she really stuck with it and learned it, all that part's gone, can be gone. Mm-hmm. So it's a new kind of thing, less than a couple of years old, really being used. So it will be up and coming more and more. Okay, let's see, where are we? Number 9. Have you received any complimentary memos or letters from employers or customers? Provide below quotes from these letters that support your accomplishments. We have an IT student in Stockton who, over his career, he was in the military. This is Skip. He was in the military forever. And then he was in copier installation and repair, copy machines and stuff. And at his company, he was just such a helpful person. He was always receiving like little notes and memos and thanks from his customers, and he collected them. And he had like about 50. And so as he was finishing his initial IT program, he was going to go on to something more. But that company, he had a conversation with someone there and reminded them about all these thank yous and stuff he had gotten. So now they're hiring. This is just a few weeks ago, and they called him and asked him to come back based on the fact that, you know, he reminded somebody and they remembered, like, everywhere he went, everyone liked him. And so he had a whole notebook full of all of his thank you notes, and they're customers. So think of even just little things that people have said to you that you can talk about in an interview. Number 10, what tangible evidence do you have of accomplishments? Publications you've written, products you've developed, software applications you've written. Maybe you helped write like an SOP for something that you were doing at your work. Do you have any sort of things that you could show? Show and tell. I have a graduate who just graduated actually, I think last month. And she wanted to start working before she graduated, so she was out interviewing. And she had some samples of web development things that she had done. And as she was did I tell the story last week? Okay. As she was interviewing,
I think you did.
yeah, the lady stopped right in the middle, and she thought, "Oh, I'm a goner." Yeah. Okay. So
That was a good start.
Right.
Actually, that was very good.
And next week you'll tell the same story again. We'll be like,
Yeah, when your eyes roll over, I'll be like,
oh,
see, I had a little recall there. All right. Okay. So do you have something that you can bring to show?
my coding book.
Your what? Your coding book full of notes?
I know how to use it.
And it'll just like plunk on the table like that, right? Okay, number 11. How did you contribute to this employer's profitability, such as through sales increase percentages? How have you helped your employer to make money? So sometimes it's not a direct help them make money. Could be more like a save money sort of a thing. We had a student in Stockton who his previous work was in a bottling plant, and not only did the plant make the bottles, you know, different shapes for different things, then they filled them. And he ran a line where the bottles were getting filled, and he just happened to look and he saw a defect in a bottle. He just spotted it. And he had the authority to stop the line, and he did. And his employer told him that if he had not caught that defect and they had filled that whole order, it would have cost them $1 million. So there's an example.
Yeah, it's funny. When I was at that internship that I'm at, one of the things I did was their tool rack at one point. It was just a mess, and there's things everywhere. So I organized all their all the tools. I'm okay. These types go here. These types go here. These types go here. And because they said that because of that, over the next couple weeks, they were getting orders done much faster because everything was organized, and they're like, okay, yeah, grab that, you know.
So if they can work faster, they can turn out their work faster. They can get paid. So that's a great example. efficiency equals dollars. Number 12, how did you contribute to operational efficiency in this job, such as through cost reduction percentages? How did you help the employer or part of the organization to save money, save time, or make work easier? Or Isaac, your example fits really well there too. Do some of these make you feel like you have to really stretch your thinking? A little bit. But really digging into these things, what can really help you make yourself competitive?
So, so I organized the tools which improve the volume of work completed.
Yeah. Sort of like cleaning up your bedroom though. Now you gotta keep it that way, right?
Yeah, they actually told me that yeah, you organize it after like 5 weeks. It didn't last, but during those weeks it was improved quite a bit.
But you can do it again.
They have a whole new system now. So
Oh,
they actually, in the sense that they reorganized their entire like area and it looks completely different.
oh, maybe you got them going on that.
Yeah.
Number 13, how did you contribute to productivity, such as through successfully motivating your team?
You know what's interesting? Like all 3 of these are like almost like same way, different ways of saying
Yeah.
the exact same thing almost. Yeah, the same. Number 14 is again kind of like the. It's like
You could put a ditto,
yeah, I know. It's like
little ditto mark. And you can think of different examples too, because 11 is really, can be about profitability, and 12, efficiency, 13, productivity, 14, how did you help make your company more competitive? Number 15 here, how did you build relationships with internal and or external customers? How did you attract new customers or retain existing ones? So remember, our internal customers are the people that we work with. Okay, maybe you've never had an external customer, but we all have internal customers. So when it says, how did you attract new customers or retain existing ones, you know, that could be talking about rapport that you built and maintained with the people that you work with. You can read a little into these. Like Clarissa. she builds rapport with her classmates because she brings treats.
I was doing that.
And everyone loves that. Number 16, how did you help expand the business? So read into that one a little bit. Maybe it wasn't some big overt thing, but what's something that you might have done that helped grow things a little bit? Or that you left behind and you know that when you left, it really would have helped. Number 17, how did you help the organization fulfill its mission statement? I think maybe more than mission statements these days, we see company values, so you could substitute values there. Mission statement's kind of a 90s thing. Now it's values. Kind of a 90s gap.
I think number 18 is kind of interesting.
That's my favorite.
Hire her.
So if you had to be on the 18, if you had to be the writer of a letter of recommendation about you from your boss, what would, little typo there, what would it say? What would you say in there? And number 19, how did you solve one or more specific problems in this job, whichever job comes to your mind? What were the problems or challenges that you or the organization faced? What did you do to overcome the problems? What were the results of your efforts? Hint, use the PAR technique in which you describe a situation or problem or challenge that existed in a given job. Tell what action you took to fix the situation, problem, or challenge, and what the result was. So just make a note to yourself here about an example. Don't take the time just now to write out the whole thing. There's just a couple other things that I want to say in regard to these 19 questions, just as an example, that these are good topics to reflect on thinking of a new job or a new line of work or career that you're going to go into, because employers right now, these questions are sort of a level deeper than a lot of traditional sort of just interview questions. And if I mentioned this last week, sorry. But employers are really looking for people that are going to come in and engage in their company, not just come in and do a good job. But that's something that just across the country right now, employers say they're challenged by finding people who are really going to come in and have similar values and really engage. That means go the next step, which is kind of hard. You know, a lot of us were a little older. We remember the days when the organization had an allegiance to
to the employees. And that really doesn't exist anymore, but they still want that sort of person. Okay, so they're looking for ways. When you start in your job search, you very likely will see that word or that concept out there about engagement, engaging with the company. And so to go a little bit deeper, this level, and have these sort of stories and examples ready to tell will help them hear that you most likely are going to be a person that's going to come in and do a really great job in your job duties, but also engage in the company. And the other thing is about building your own career path. So pretty much are gone are the days, as you know, that you come in and every year you have a yearly performance evaluation and they give you $27 an hour more. So now
Those are done legally years ago.
So now it's really up to us to do that. And so good record keeping, like you're already doing, but continuing that, and knowing, keeping track of things that you've done that go that extra depth, that extra mile, so that you can come back and talk about those things, really help you move forward. So I always like to encourage people, once you start a new job, make sure you have a copy of your job description. If it's not given to you at orientation, then go and ask for it. So you can like check off over the first few months how you're doing, what you're doing. Are there things on there that you need some training for, so that you can go and request that? And then once your feet are good and wet and you've given some good, solid work after a period of time, then go and find out, if I wanted to be promoted or move on, where would I go from this position? And then ask for a job description of that position. And then you have a list that you can look at to start grooming yourself for that position, and find out what sort of things you need to be trained on, what sort of things might you get connected with somebody else in the organization that does those things that you've spotted from the distance, and you think, oh, they do a great job on that. I'm going to kind of buddy up with them and learn about that. You know, just ways to start to build your own path. It's really up to us these days. Okay, next page, page 4. On this page is a list of strengths that you can use in your resume, cover letters, and in your interviews. And so what I would like you to do, a couple of things. I want you to speed read through this list. No big analyzing. This is sort of a gut instinct activity. And just kind of mark or highlight the words that you come across that you say, yes, that's me, that really stand out to you. And if you think of something that's not on this list, there's a little spot down at the bottom of the page. Go ahead and write in anything that comes to mind. And then I'm going to ask that everybody share the one that you feel is like your greatest strength, or the one that really stands out to you about yourself. And then, of course, you can use these to develop stories. Isaac, will you share which one jumped out at you the most about yourself?
I can't really pick one specific one. It's like
Tell a couple.
I got. Let's see here. Dedicated, dependable, enthusiastic, friendly and engaging personality. Oh, I thought that said something else. Never mind. Right here. Good judgment, learn from failures and mistakes, logical thinking, open-minded and optimistic, organized, positive attitude, and then my final ones were respectful, respond favorably to constructive criticism, and sense of humor.
So you can see right there, those are good things that could be up at the top of a resume. Some of those things that you would pick, which I think on your resume they already are. Yeah. Okay. Debbie.
Adapted, well, I guess these are kind of all go together. Adapted change, open-minded, optimistic, positive attitude.
They do go together, so that's a theme about you. Excellent. And
Also adapt to change, attention to detail, calm agitated clients. Clearly convey features and benefits of a product or service. Consistently meet deadlines, create attractive documents, critical thinking, decision making, dedicated, dependable, determined or determination, goals, effective managing multiple projects simultaneously. It goes on.
good. Okay. There's a lot of higher level professional characteristics there. Good. Donna?
I have accuracy, adapt to changing, assess outcomes, assess needs and performances of customers, attention to detail, benefits of product and service, close sales, business partner, websites, creative activity documents, professional skills, active creative thinking, creativity, dependable, design training programs, goals, effective managing multiple, efficiency, establish a quick rapport with clients, establishing standards and processes, facilitate productive meetings, friendly and engaging, general positive, leadership.
So you see how you could take 2 or 3 or 4 of those and really weave a story out of all of them, right? And then you could use that story to highlight several different things. Because there's a lot that run together. They come in a package. Yeah, good. Clarissa?
I just put in like a parenthesis because they all seems like correlated.
Okay.
Like the first alphabet is just adaptable to change because of the circumstances, and there's a lot of things with critical thinking based on the situational and dependable and become more flexible and focused due to the personality change as we change. So things have changed. As I cannot see that I am the same person I was 20 years ago that I changed. So for me, it's like it's hard for me to put in who I am right now because there's a lot of changes, especially for the career change. But basically, those are the strong points that I have. You have to learn from mistakes and failures, so listening, logical thinking, get motivated, do network or generate leads. This is ongoing now. Open-minded, positive attitude, response to favorable to constructive criticism, and sense of humor to ease out the stress, and strong work ethic. Those kind of strong to put in the resume. So there's a lot of things.
So you're talking about something that we're going to talk about next, really, called transferable skills, which are skills that no matter where you work, no matter what work you're doing or who you work for, you bring these skills with you. And they're more, for the most part, for most people, they're more the soft skills. You heard the term soft skills, hard skills. Hard skills are like the technical things you do in your work. And the soft skills are the characteristics about you that enable you to do those things well. And a lot of our soft skills are even things that we're born with and have grown over time. You know, they're innate or inherent in us, and they get refined as we have more experiences. So we're going to do an activity next related to transferable skills. So if you look at page 5 and you just see that there's a table here with 2 columns to fill in. On the left it says transferable skill from resume and then to the job posting. So just kind of keep in mind that this is going to be a sheet to write on, but then turn the page and you see a resume of Joe somebody on the left side, and over on the right side is a job description from a Sherwin-Williams store. For the job title is store associate and driver. So this is the actual resume. The name's been changed to protect the identity and innocence of this person. This is from a client that I worked with a few years ago who I used to work for lots of years with adults with Asperger's syndrome, and he wanted to, he was working toward moving into employment, and this was a job that I came across this job, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this would be a perfect job for him to interview for. And really his first instinct was that he had never done any work with paint before, that he couldn't do any of this. And I said, well, let's get out your resume and look at this job description and see what's on your resume that's like transferable types of skills. You're using similar skills, but you've used them in one arena, and now you're going to move forward and tell how your background fits what they're looking for. So we're just going to do a few of these. We're not going to do the whole page together. But as we do the first 2 or 3, you can flip back to this page with the table and just fill in, just make a note to yourself where you spot the skills that you have that match what's being sought in the job description you're reading. So this is an example of taking your job descriptions and thinking about your own background and asking yourself with each thing they're looking for in that job description, so what that I have experience in a similar way that I can relate and make it relevant to this new job, okay? So let's take a look at the first item on the job description. It says this position is responsible for assisting customers in person and over the phone by determining needs and presenting appropriate products and services. Where do you see something on his resume? And sometimes there's more than one example on his resume, but where do you see something on his resume that is transferable? Which job?
Meeting customers. The construction company, personal labor.
I agree.
Because it's for, this is, painting, so that has all of your household indoor, outdoor remodeling.
Mm-hmm. So this one, customer service, in person, over the phone, determining needs and giving suggestions. Well, something else you see, there's 2 or 3 for most of these.
The delivery exception of customer service.
Where he worked in the restaurant also because of the customer service there again.
Payment transactions.
Yep. Also on the assistant photographer, the next to the last, serve clients by listening to their ideas and help set expectations. Okay, good. So you see there's more than one, right? So if you want to use that table on the previous page and just make a note from like Sherwin-Williams, number 1, customer service, to whichever one you identify on his resume that you identify the most with.
So are we doing it for us or for this on this?
For for the Sherwin-Williams
Okay,
example.
where you.
But this is an example how you can just get a piece of paper at home and you pull up a job description, you think, oh man, even if you're not looking for a job yet, I encourage you to start doing this because it'll help you discover keywords, concepts, what is being looked for out there as you get ready to finish school and job search. So, sitting down with some job descriptions you pull off from print and have a piece of paper and just do this sort of activity because you're getting your mind set on delivering your PAR stories that will support how, even though you're a career changer, you have relevant, applicable, beneficial work experience.
Oh, you know what, Cindy? I wanted to tell you about the informational interviews I went on Monday. It was really cool. We went to 2 places. It was Computer Booter and then Love to Fix. And the Love to Fix one went really, really well. I actually, we were talking and stuff about things, and then he brought me to the ice. He said, actually here, come into the back and I'll show you around everything. So he showed me around the whole place and everything that he was doing and everything. And I told him, about the internship I was doing and stuff. And he actually, towards the end, he said, here, take this iPhone and when you have time, take it apart and just learn by doing it. So, and then he also gave me his cell number for texting if I ever had any questions or
nice.
wanted to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take apart that cell phone. I'm going to set aside some time to take apart that cell phone, and then I'm going to when I do that, I'm going to say, hey, I just wanted to let you know I took apart the cell phone. I thought you might want to see some pictures of my progress. So I'm going to take some pictures of what I did and send it to him. So I've got I really got like a real good connection. So
yeah,
hopefully
keep your contact warm.
Yeah.
Warmed up. Yeah.
So hopefully, what's interesting is that he actually that place that I love to fix, they know the guys from IPC Fix because he goes in there every week or so, every week or 2 weeks to buy screens from them. So he knows Ivan and Jamie from the place that I'm interning at. So the next time he goes in, Ivan and Kim will be able to talk to him about me and everything. So it's pretty cool.
That's perfect, Isaac. That's how it works.
I have a question.
Yes.
When you did the informational, did you just cold call and just?
No, we just dropped right in. We just dropped in, and I said
okay.
hi, I'm Isaac Mars. You've recently completed my CompTIA A+ and MCTS certifications, and I'm just going around, going to some businesses, getting some information about this field and stuff. So I was wondering if you could just kind of tell me what goes on in here and what you do, and give me some information and insight into this, job area.
And in the field that you're in, I can see it being a more general walk-in. In the medical field, would you recommend that one specific person that actually deals with what you're planning to do, perhaps, and make the time call ahead? Or in that respect?
Because in this one, there's the ones I'm going to go like
Yeah,
small,
this is a walk-in.
Yes.
Small businesses that are owned by 1 or 2 people, and so they have the time to just sit down and really get into it. They love it. They love it when you ask questions about that, because what was funny is when I first came in, he thought I was just kind of, I was dressed nice and everything. And he thought, oh, just another person dropped off resume. Well, oh no, I'm not here to drop off my resume. I'm here to talk to you and get information and stuff. And so once he found that out, he was like, oh yeah. And then from there, it turned into this thing where I finally at the end I said, oh, by the way, I do have my resume with me if you want to take it. And he's like, oh yeah, sure. So it made it much more open to taking in my resume.
Yeah, and following along, that's an excellent point. Also, to leave your resume, you can just say, oh, by the way, I do have a copy of my resume with me. Would you be willing to review it? There, you're not shoving it in their hand for a job, so to speak, but you've come and they're like the expert in the field. That's what you've sought out. So maybe they'll take a look at your resume and give you some suggestion. But it's just a way to leave it, and leave your name, leave your phone number. Yeah, so for medical billing or something that's more of an office environment where people aren't necessarily expecting you to walk in off the street, I think these days, and I think we've all experienced it, you can send emails and they're disregarded.
Correct.
You can make phone calls and they're not returned, right? it's really hard to ignore a human being standing right in front of you.
Because they don't see the personality, they don't see
Right.
how perhaps genuine you are, or even
Yeah.
just, I'm not threatening your job, I just want to have more information.
And this is such the perfect time. I'm in school, or I will be graduating soon. I've recently graduated, but not like, well, I graduated 6 months ago, So taking advantage of this timing thing can really be advantageous. Of course, you go dressed looking like you're ready for an interview,
Correct.
because you never know, you're the right person in the right place at the right time. And
Or could be
maybe-
recommended to someone who is looking.
yes, always ask for a referral. I
And-
ask for at least 2. Do you know a couple other people who might be interested in my background, or who might be interested
Okay.
in my experience, or who might be
I like
open to
the
hiring
concept
right now.
of what you did or you're doing, because
Mhm.
that is not threatening. Not only you won't be disappointed, but you kind of get a glance at, okay, what is a clinic all about? Because
Yeah.
I've never worked in a clinic. I may not like it, or I may like it so much that, but I don't want it to go in there and, I don't know, seem pushy, because I'm not, but they may perceive it, how dare she just show up kind of attitude.
Well, this is what I used to tell my students decades ago, that you know why we get nervous about that? Because they might reject us, right?
Okay.
And if that's how we
But
are,
we're not looking, see, this is the perfect, like you say, this is the perfect opportunity, because you're not losing anything.
right,
You're not looking for a
that's
job.
your mindset, right? But
You're looking for information. How, is it stressful for you to be in this clinic billing environment, or?
But really and truly, you are looking for an interview and looking for a job.
But if you
in the
perceive
back of your
yourself,
mind.
right, if you perceive yourself, if you psych, my interpretation of that, if you psych yourself up that
Yes.
I'm just here for information, it won't seem like a rejection. It won't, if they don't make time for you, at least is there a good time to come back?
Yeah.
At least you have that now.
And in this day and age too, it's very easy to find who's the manager
Exactly.
of wherever you're going versus a receptionist who, they may say, oh, do you have a resume? And that's it, close the door. So just doing the way Isaac is suggesting, that's just like kind of the backdoor way to come in.
Exactly.
And it's softer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was looking online at like Med7's urgent care, and they have the picture and the name of the person that's in charge of the office and does the hiring and everything. So if you did go in, you would know who to ask for.
But you have to do a little research too before
Yeah.
you just,
Yeah, but I was surprised that they had the picture and.
well,
It
if they
seems like the
do,
funniest thing these days. You read a job description and what do they tell you at the bottom? No phone calls, and then they got about 10 exclamation points after it, But then overwhelmingly across the country, because I keep up on all this stuff every year, employers say they still want to be found.
I agree.
They put all that, like, do not call us, but they want to be found. Okay. So using these softer approaches, informational interview, I'd just like to learn what it's really like to work here. I mean, you could even ask to come in and shadow somebody for 2 or 3 hours. You go in, you make a good connection with somebody. You could say, hey, Isaac, you could take the phone apart, and instead of, texting him or whatever, you could drop by again and say, hey, look, this is what I did. Maybe have pictures on your phone or something. And just with your enthusiasm, you could say, hey, if they do something different than what you do at your current place, say, hey, would you give me a half a day in here to just follow along and watch what you do?
It was actually interesting because he said that what you really need to be doing is just practicing all this stuff. So I said yeah, and then so I actually sent him a text yesterday saying, hey, I took your advice. I talked to the Ivan and Jamie, and now I actually on that day I did 2 iPhone 6 screen replacements. So and then I said, and then I'll immediately texted, thank you very much for your insight. So I kind of kept that going. So
Because I think overall most people like to help people, but sometimes we have to let somebody know how they can help us. So that's a great example. So yeah.
I like the approach though of I'm currently in school and
Yes.
I haven't decided what direction to take my skills in, which would be clinic, hospital, or other.
Right. So when we get to talking in here about interviewing, networking, then there's lists of questions that you can ask and put together your own set of questions that you want to find out, perfect to go to all these different types of places that you might possibly work. And how did you get into this? What do you like about it? Oh, yeah. Make a project out of it.
We have even more places lined up to go to for a couple weeks, and then send them emails back saying, hey, thanks for your time and everything. And so it's gonna be pretty cool.
And you can turn it around at that point because you kept these people warm. Now they know you. Oh, he was a nice young man. And say, I've completed my informational interview. And I've completed school. I've completed my informational interviewing. I was so happy to have met you. Thanks for your input. Say, do you know anybody that you could refer me to who might be looking for someone with my background? And they might be thinking, oh, me. But it's a lot easier to say that and less threatening to you and them, saying it that way than to say, you got a job for me? Sort of like that taking away from someone like, no, I'm interested in hiring you.
And I like the concept of sending them a thank you after, because you did take up their time. I have found that to be very
It's kind of a lost art.
It is.
Whether it's a thank you email. I mean, it's so nice to get a handwritten little card. You can go to the dollar store and get a package of 6 or 8 thank you cards. I say, put a stamp on every one of them, get them ready to go, and 3 sentences that you write to say thank you, because people don't receive those much anymore. It makes a huge impact. But emailing, believe it or not, sending a thank you email is considered professionally A-okay. Even a phone call, even if you have to leave a voicemail. It's an acknowledgement, and it is kind of a lost art to do that anymore. So you got a good thing rolling there. I wouldn't bet that, somewhere along the line you could link back to that person and could have something to do with employment for you. That's very cool. Thanks for sharing that. All right, let's go back to Sherwin-Williams here and look at number 2. It says this involves ensuring that sales transactions are completed accurately, maintaining accurate work order files and formulas, pulling appropriate products from the sales floor or warehouse, and tinting and mixing them to customer specifications. So the first thing he said to me is, I've never mixed paint before in my life. And I said, well, let's focus on some of the other things that are in that part of that description, and what do you relate to? So where do you find some things that are relatable in his resume? Different type of work, different industry, but involved making sales transactions, being accurate.
In the photography position, he did actually quite a bit of that.
I just saw, he might know how to do that, but it says willing to be taught and help others learn. So he says hey, he's saying, hey, I may not know it now, but show me how to do it and I'll learn how to do it.
Right?
Says he took accurate orders at the restaurant.
Mm-hmm. So you see, you get a lot of mileage out of one concept that can be useful in lots of different spots through your interviewing. Last one here, this position will also stock shelves, set up displays, clean store equipment, load and unload trucks. May also assist in making deliveries if necessary. Then a couple farther down, it says physical requirements, talks about lifting, etc. So where do you see, what's something from his resume that you see that he would be familiar with? What is being described here? Just hard physical work, right?
Mm-hmm.
That he's used to it. Where do you see that?
I see it at the restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
I see it at the labor.
Yeah. So that's just an example of taking these job descriptions and kind of pulling them apart. One
more.
Where
the restaurant where it says operate food preparation equipment, restock supplies, and
Mhm.
maintain cleanliness of the store.
Yeah.
Kind of along the same lines.
Yeah. So you can see how you just dissect these job descriptions and match them up to things on your resume, because when you answer that phone and you think, oh, they're gonna ask me for an interview, and then they start asking you, like, well, tell me about that job. Then you know from tearing apart that job description, you know what you're gonna talk about, because you're gonna take your work experience, which could be completely unrelated except for those soft skills, transferable skills, strengths, and you're gonna be able to link them up to what they're looking for. You'll be ready. All right, let's go on to the next page here. This page is a list of these transferable skills, and I'd like you to do the same thing that you did on that other list. I just want you to speed read through it, go with your gut instinct, and just put a little mark or highlight the ones that stand out about you. Yes, okay. These are me. And if you have some other ones that come to mind, there's some space down at the bottom of the page for you to write them in. As you do these and later reflect on these and start working on your resume and stuff too, like we were talking about with Donna and Debbie in particular too, look the themes, you know, where you see several that sort of group together. Those are themes about you. When you've gone through the list, then I would like for you to look back through it and circle your top 3, not 27, your top 3 transferable skills.
Ooh, that's
that
hard.
You would want to make sure an employer knows for sure about you. Hopefully you get to express all of them, but the top 3 things that you think I definitely want in most every interview I have, I want them to know these about me.
All right.
You want to go first? Tell your top 3.
I kind of got 2 groups. It's like my first top 3, and then the ones like right below that. First top 3 is that dependable, desire to learn, desire to improve. And then kind of right below that, I have team player, trustworthy, and cooperation. It's
Okay.
Those are like my 2 sets that's my first set, and then my second set.
Okay, good. All right. Debbie, thank you.
Analyze, dependable, positive.
Okay. Good. Anna?
Communicate well in writing and orally, detail-oriented, manage time, and I have one fourth one of work independently.
Okay. All right. You can see how those could go in the top part of the summary at the top of your resume, right? When you want to tell about yourself. Hey, Donna?
I kind of struggled with a couple of these.
Okay.
Financial responsible instead of doing bookkeeping or budget.
Instead of what?
Doing bookkeeping or budgeting.
Okay.
I figured
And
that's kind of.
What does the difference mean to you?
The one that I chose is kind of like all of those.
Okay.
Instead of just doing one.
Okay.
And then I also chose use computer software proficiently instead of putting it as computer skills.
Okay.
And then what was the other one I did? Oh, and listening.
Okay. Good. And how does listening, take it a step farther, how would listening impact that sort of work? especially related to the other two that you picked.
Because you have to be a good listener to know what they want.
Yes.
I mean, and to fulfill the
There
responsibilities.
you go. Yeah, fulfill. So you see how you can work all of those into one example, but you could use that example in a variety of responses to different types of questions. Cool. Larissa?
Well, same as I said, I have the theme about the 3Ds, dependable, start to learn, start to improve.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very important. Adaptable,
Okay.
accept responsibility.
Okay.
It's a basic info.
All right, good. Oksana?
Customer service, experience of customer service, reliable and I guess bilingual, but I don't know if I should say that.
Is that on there? But you can add that at the bottom. That's
Yeah,
good.
yeah, I don't think it's important, but usually some want to know. What else? Team player. Lots of people want to know that. They want to know how they can be working independently in team player.
Yeah, you'll see those both. Yeah, good. All right. So as you do start looking at job descriptions and you have identified some of these things that are really important to you, you want to be evaluating those job descriptions. Are they offering you the opportunity to use your strengths and your transferable skills? Because those are the things you feel strong in. Those are the things that float your boat. You know, they make you feel glad when you're at work and you can utilize those strengths. Because all of us have strengths also, things that we're good at doing, but we do not like. And those are the things that burn you out. So think of that when you're looking at job descriptions. Are there things on here that, yeah, I'm good at that, but oh my gosh, if I had to do that, you know, I would not want to go to work. So really honing in on the things that you do like will help you more easily spot, like, oh, that little thing is not for me. Because, you know, we do all get in situations from time to time where we just feel like we have to take some job, but to be having the luxury of being more discriminating, you know, by starting your job search earlier and getting ready, getting out and doing your informational interviews and gathering that sort of information and making those connections in good timing really helps you to be able to zero in on a job that really sounds better to you. All right, let's take a look at the next page 9. And this is that concept I mentioned at the beginning, the features and benefits of you. Features and benefits is a concept that comes from the world of sales. And, you know, salesmen get out there and they're trying to sell us all kinds of things and have all kinds of features. But why do we choose things? Usually, unless it's like a used car salesman, because we want to get away from them, we'll just buy that car. What we buy things because we perceive the benefit to them, right? So I always tell my dishwasher story. Did I tell it already?
No, I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's because you were here before. I'm like, I told it yesterday. Anyway, a zillion years ago, I had a dishwasher, and one day it didn't wash my dishes anymore. So here we go off Sears and buy a new dishwasher. It's kind of exciting, you know. And what do you find? There's so many dishwashers. How do you choose? So I ended up choosing the one that had like 23 wash cycles. Wow. Obviously, it must be more than just wash my dishes if it's got 23 cycles on it, right? So about 3 weeks later, it didn't wash my dishes anymore.
The new one?
So, you know, it's all electronic. So he just swapped out, the repairman came, he just swapped out the motherboard. And that back in those days, I'm like, whatever that is, it just doesn't wash my dishes, is all I do. 2 weeks later, it didn't wash my dishes anymore again. What did I want? I wanted my old dishwasher back. It was like 20 years old because, you know,
It washed
my dishes. So 23 features, wow, that's very cool, but no benefit to me. So it's the same sort of concept here. You know, we want to come up with and know what are features about us that we want to sell to a potential employer in an interview. But we want to go one step farther and think, so what's the benefit? So what that I have that experience, or that I know about that, or that I can help resolve a conflict, or that I can calm an angry customer? So what? What's the benefit? the potential benefit to this employer. And that's what you want to express, because everybody can talk about conflict resolution situation, but that you can come right out and express, and a benefit of my experience is that this is where, oh, you're overly qualified. No, I'm well qualified. And the benefit of my experience is this. So as you're preparing all these things that have to do with your skills, thinking that, what's the benefit to this potential employer? How will it help them meet their goal? How will it fit in as part of the value of their organization? So
I just noticed, like, once I had interviews, sometimes they ask right away. This was group interview, and she asked individual, what benefit I get from you? Why I should take, like, what kind of benefit you can bring to me, to my business?
right.
And I think everybody thinks about that, but not some of them say, some of them not. But it's maybe better to say.
Right, don't leave it up to them that once you go away, don't leave it up to them to sit there and think like, okay, well, why should I hire her? You know, this is where you have two questions, and we'll get to them when we talk about interviewing, but the two questions always to be ready for is, the first one's not grammatically a question, but, hi, nice to meet you, thank you for coming. Tell me a little bit about yourself. And the last question, why should I hire you? If they don't ask that, from the minute your butt hits the chair, you want to have your approach being, I'm here to tell you why you should hire me. And, you know, having this benefit concept in your mind, and at the back of every answer that you give is what helps them see you in that role. So coming right out and saying, even if you don't use the exact words, because you don't sound like a robot, but for every question, basically, you know, and the benefit of my experience will be or is, and then you tell what that is through an example that you give. Yeah, you're right. You're in that. Huh?
Are group interviews common?
They're very common for like the state and county jobs.
Really?
Yes. And at the state, a lot of times you'll have like 3, 4, 5, 6, up to 6 people, because they're all from different departments. Because like at the state, let's say you want to be in bookkeeping or an accounting technician. So the job description is the same for each role, but they got like 300 different departments to choose from.
I gotta
So-
get going.
Okay,
Yeah, I have to leave
See
at
ya.
1:30.
okay,
So,
see ya.
all right, I will see you later.
And, water bottle,
Oh, thank you.
and
And I've done that several times, and then I'm like,
you own stock and water bottles.
huh?
Do you own stock and water bottles? So you can have several different managers from different departments sitting in on the same interview, and then,
Oh, I see. Group
Yeah.
on the opposite side. It's one person, but a group of interviewers.
yes.
Oh, okay, I
Oh, I'm
misunderstood
sorry,
her.
you thought the
Yeah, but the
interviewees.
applicants
Oh,
were
no,
in
no,
a
one
group.
applicant
Oh, but
and several different
departments.
managers.
Oh, okay.
And
Like a round table.
Oh, okay.
yeah, and I think every once in a while you might find that in a job that's, you know, not government based.
Oh,
And,
Or corporate based too.
yeah,
Kind of
okay.
thing.
so you gotta be ready, you know, and even
Okay.
like at the state, you get there a little early, and they give you 10 minutes with a sheet of paper with the questions they're gonna ask you. You get to look at them
Oh,
beforehand, sort of get your mind set, you know, and then you go in and they just rip right through them.
it's funny because you read different things of what not to do or what to do. And one of the not to do's is to get there early, is what I read recently.
Yeah.
And, you know, in other words, well, this was a little exaggerated. I would never get there an hour early,
Oh, no, no.
but at least 10 minutes.
Yes.
you
Yes,
know,
yes,
At
yes.
least, but they made it sound like, you know, don't sit there and wait forever and chit chat with the receptionist and
Yeah,
do all these other things prior to your interview. So 10 minutes is reasonable
yeah, 10 or 15 minutes so that you have a chance to
to kind of lay the
go
land.
to the restroom and check things
That's
out.
the other thing.
You know.
That's the other thing they noted in this article I read. Do not do that. I'm serious. I read it and, you know, and I said,
Good
okay,
night.
the 3 things or 5 things you never do at an interview.
Yeah.
And one of them
What
is
are
the
they?
bathroom. Well, one of them, don't get there too early. Bathroom situation. I should have printed this out. But the bathroom part was one that, you know, you should go before you even enter maybe. the
Yeah, if you
office,
can.
If you can,
Yeah.
but yeah. It was one of those, I go, wow.
But certainly don't think like, oh, I feel like I could go, but oh no, I have next hour and a half.
Well, I'm just saying, it was interesting, and they did a little narrative as to why they don't recommend it. That kind of thing. I have to remember that.
I'll try to.
I
I
like to read that.
searched. I don't know exactly, but I know like French culture not allowed to go to restaurant if you for interview or you just come to how
Oh, okay.
something
Like
like that.
a protocol?
Yeah, I don't know why I always I had some feeling. I don't know why I just never went to a restaurant for the interview. I don't know why.
Well, they did, I read that, so I said, oh,
It's
okay.
about the manner
just-
for some reason. I don't know why. I think they think you should do it before.
Well, how's he
Like
gonna
my mama
know?
taught me,
It's
always
just
go
a
before you
restaurant's
leave
not
home.
I'm just saying,
Maybe
that. I thought that was, when you said that, I said, oh, wait a minute, that was one of the other things that is in that.
Yeah, and sometimes, you don't get there so early, but you get there early and, sometimes receptionists are actually trained to evaluate you and they are
Yes.
sought after the feedback, like how did that person treat you? Did they greet you? Did they give their name? It can be part of the evaluation process.
Or they're sitting on their phone.
Yes,
waiting.
don't sit on your phone, playing a game or talking or anything, like,
No.
Burying your phone.
don't have it, yeah.
And
I leave it in the
one
car.
thing that I applied, it was much it was I don't know never mind. But the owner, he pretended he was a clerk. He was in the front desk.
Oh,
And
since
I
you don't
didn't
know,
And
right?
I just was coming, and the thing I was like, you always look how people talking, like, and I was nice, very polite at that, and he just noticed, and he also people look how you speak to lower
Yeah.
level. They see, okay, she wrote to front desk, okay, then some of the people did the tricks. And
Yeah.
I knew that.
Some reception people are specifically trained to evaluate that and give
Wow.
feedback about it.
And oh my gosh, I never know that. So it's so complicated to speak to brain boss because the receptionist, they can always say, oh, he's busy.
Yeah.
Some people say you have to find a way how to be friends with them. But I don't know how, but some of them just don't even give you a resume. Like, I don't know.
Well,
It's a big
and the biggest
problem.
part of that is being ready, is practicing what you're going to say. And sometimes, see, this is why I think that informational interviewing while you're still in the schooling part can be so valuable, because you could go in that situation and say, because it's always threatening, like, oh, I'm looking for a job. That is threatening.
Yeah.
But to say, I'm in school right now, or I'll be finishing school soon.
Oh.
And it's like you're pleading your case with them to help you. Would you be willing to help me out? I'd like to learn more about what it's like to really work doing this job or work in this industry. And it's different than
It's less
if they're hearing you ask about leaving your resume or who's the hiring manager. Because a lot of times they're screened to screen you out that way
Yes.
too.
Do you have an appointment?
Yeah, so
Oh, yes.
when you're a
Imagine-
student, and you're just looking to gather information, to learn more, people are oftentimes more receptive to that.
Can I ask a question, but it's an observation. For the past and a half year that I from my previous job here in Sacramento, I find it the interview that I had is more on the agencies. If once
Oh, if one
sign up-
agency?
yeah, if agencies from then on they coaches you, how to do interview, things like that. They're the ones who will set up for interview for the company.
Yes.
Yes.
So
and
I know.
also-
Oh, go on, sorry. Go ahead.
with her, since we have a different background on what job we are looking for, for me, it will be in a hospital, in a medical, if she's on the arts, in the office. So it varies for the people, or
So we can start our own business.
yes,
Yeah,
you started because that's my observations that I in the job. But when you're in the hospital, medical, it's a hospital. They have some kind of protocol somehow to apply for a job. But it's for like with her, with the arts, you apply for an office. own business, you know, they have a different set of how to, you know, candidates. So
You gotta be very different walking into like a Med 7 and trying to
Med 7.
have an informational interview type of situation than it would be to walk into a Kaiser, you know, like where do you go?
Yeah.
And so there's just different things you can try. The bottom line of it all is that when you try something new, it might work. When you try something different, it might work because most people aren't doing those things. And so we get concerned that it's going to really stand out and we're going to be rejected, and that can even stop us from trying. But, you know, they're not going to spot you on the street next week and go, oh, that's that lady that tried to come in. And, you know, they don't remember the name. They don't remember your voice. They don't remember your face. So try it. Nothing to lose. It feels awkward, but
I didn't get it. I'm so sorry. What do
when you're trying to go in and just in person talk to someone
Informational.
in a relationship to having an informational interview, being able to talk with someone about what's it like to work in a facility like this? What's it like to work in this industry, do this job?
just asking questions. That's it.
Yeah,
Oh.
but being prepared, having your questions ready, knowing what you want to ask, knowing what your goal is for that meeting. What do you want to get out of it? And, you know, then remembering too that you want to always ask for a couple of referrals. Yeah.
When you go to your appointments for
Yeah.
the medical, you know, ask the people on. It'd probably be really easy to give you information.
I just had a good experience that time when I was asking for a job, that if somebody don't offer the job. Once I had a good experience, they said, oh, we don't have openings, but we know the place for hiring, for example, or we know the agency. And I went there and it actually helped me out.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Yeah, agencies kind of come and go as far as being used and being a successful method for people. And since there's been the change in our insurance and benefits situations, agencies have sort of come back up again because some of them actually pay benefits. And, you know, it's that try before you buy. You get to go in and see if you like this company, and they get to have you come and see that this is like a match made in heaven, you know, before they bring somebody on, because it costs the company about the level of an annual salary for someone to bring them in for the first few months and startup benefits, et cetera. So it is costly. And statistically, right now, people change jobs about every 18 months. Whether you're the one changing or they're letting people go or whatever it is. So the cost is very high to companies right now. And going the agency route, you know, if you are a person who has a life circumstance that allows you to maybe be between gigs, so to speak, you know, if you have a 90-day temporary assignment and then another 90-day temporary assignment, if you can have a period in there, a week or two, that you're not working, that could be a great way to get an introduction and get started and get experience. And the other side of it is that if you really, because I did this kind of thing for about a year, if you really keep a good, close connection with the company, the agency that you're working for, they know when your period is going to end. If it's like a 90-day temporary job, they know when it's going to end. They'll start lining you up so you don't have big gaps. It's the people that forget to call in, like they say, or call in at the last minute, like, oh my gosh, my job's ending. Like, they're aware of it, but maybe they said, stay in touch with us. And they tell you like the cycle, when to get back in touch with them. Those people that do it, they're working to get them into another position. So working successfully with the agency has a lot to do with staying on top of how they tell you to work with them. But don't go and take any of those where you have to pay them.
Oh, definitely not.
Okay. All right. So this feature benefit sheet, a way that you can use this again is to take a job description and write down some of the things that you know that they're looking for in the job description, and note for yourself, okay, I can do that. That's a feature of me. And what is the benefit? Make a note to yourself. What is the benefit to this potential employer that I have that feature? And then if you look, turn the page here again, this is the results of the survey that we looked at in section 1, that were the 400 companies that were interviewed, and these are the soft skills that they really look for, that they found kind of in short supply overall. So keeping those in mind, and as you kind of scour around on the internet and you look at job descriptions, you can start keeping your own list as well. What do you keep seeing over and over and over? And what do you see only occasionally? That one would be a really unique thing to be able to respond to. And again, and this is just another page that you can photocopy with the PAR format on there. So let's go to the very last page there. We are over time, but I'll give you an idea here of using this sheet. So you go through the things that you have written about yourself and some of the different strengths and transferable skills that you've chosen about yourself today. And this is a place to go back and just capture it all into one place. So you have kind of like a quick cheat sheet when you start working on your resume and getting ready for interviewing. So up the top, you see the first block there is for your top transferable skills. There's a place for you to write in hard skills. You know what those are based on the work that you're going to go into. But then over on the right, note the soft skills that you have drawn out about yourself today. And in the next block is a place to write your top 3 strengths. And then you can even write a statement that describes that strength. So if you picked something as one of your strengths, and I picked the same thing, my definition of describing myself with that strength could be really different than how you describe yourself with that strength. So make it in your words, not some dictionary definition. Like years ago, I used to write resumes from home, and people would think, they'd say, well, can't you just write that? Yes, I can, but I'm not you. And you want your resume to sound like you. You know, I would get to know people, and I would say, did you write this resume? Oh, no. You know, whoever did it, they weren't even, the resume takes 2 people to write it.
Oh,
Because you get to know that person, and does that resume sound like that person if somebody else wrote it for them? No, it doesn't. So it needs to sound like you. So when you write your strengths, then just write a 1-line description, 1 sentence, not a paragraph, 1 sentence. How do you describe yourself in that? How do you define that? Next block here, your computer skills. Be as specific as you can. Having a good level of computer skills today is just as basic as in the old days, you know, when we used to be able to pick up a pen or pencil and write on paper. So really pull out your level of abilities. We'll talk next week on resume writing. We'll talk about how to describe your different levels of abilities, because one thing you might be a whiz on and the next one you might cry over, you know, but if you have some introduction to it, then you'll want to know how to tell about that. So really think about the computer skills and abilities that you have. Some of you have typing speed requirements. You'll have a certificate for that, so you want to be sure and include that. 10 key, things like that. Debbie, did you have a question? No. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. And then the last block here, professional achievements. We didn't talk about that today, but I would like for you just to take some time to talk about, or we did it in the 19 questions a bit, but I want you to really think about what are some achievements, and they might not be necessarily things that you received certain recognition for or an award for or anything, but professionally, what are some things that you have achieved, that you grew through, and from your experience makes you who you are today? I think for all of you, coming back to school is related to a professional achievement. Sometimes people come back to school at OSC because they know they need to enhance some skills that they already have, but they know they need to bring them up to the next level, especially related to computer skills. So that's a professional achievement that you recognize that, and you had the initiative to sort of put a stop in your life and go do that thing. And what does that say about you to a potential employer? That you have the initiative to move on to the next level or the next depth of what you're doing, because you recognize that it has a value not only to yourself but to the organization that you're a part of. So really dig in deep about achievements, because you can even write a job description and then have a little section at the bottom that has achievement. You can have an achievement section. You can include achievements up in the summary that you write at the top of your resume. So digging in and really thinking, you know, they don't even have to be company recognized, but you recognize them as your own personal achievements that you're proud of. So here's just a place to keep track of those.
I just want one quick comment. Once I was applying for a job, one of the employer told me, "Are you serious? You think you're gonna job like that? You're gonna take a job like that?" I said, "Well, yes, why not?" Because he said, I'm trying to ask you what you know, what you can do. Like if you don't promote yourself, you're not gonna get this job." Like he was laughing at me because I just came from Sacramento at the time to the Bay Area. He said, "Here you has to be very like." You can do that. He asked me, yes, I can do that, but why you didn't say that? You're supposed to like. I just understood how important like to say like.
Yeah, when you're working on this stuff, just sort of like they say, put yourself in the shoes of that potential employer. They're always wondering about three things. One, can this person really do this job? So we only have our words to help them see us doing it, right? Two, will they show up every day and do this job? That's about being dependable. And three, will they get along with the people that are already here? So any way that we can express those things, we're meeting that question in the back of their mind.
And another thing, I think it's important to ask yourself. My opinion, I start asking myself, am I okay to work here? Maybe I can work here.
Yeah.
Maybe I should not even try to work here, like apply here, like because it's important.
Yeah, it's a two-way street. You know, you want to be evaluating if this is the place for you, if this is the job for you. And the more prepared you are to go in and have an interview, the more calm you can be so that you can do that evaluation.
I heard some people like they're practicing in the Nero. I was thinking like oh my gosh, never like practice. Some people really spend hours.
Yeah.
And in the context of Nero.
Here, you can look under number 4. What do you see right at the top? Practice, practice, practice. That is my favorite word.
Practice.
Okay, any questions I can answer?
Did you make copies of that one sheet that you were gonna get?
The mock interview packet? Yes, right here. Thanks for reminding me. This, I forgot to push the black and white so you get a pretty color copy.
You guys.
I know, and then I'll get the bill. Do you need this? Is it in
Oh,
behind
yeah.
tab number
I didn't have
7?
No, yeah, we didn't have, I didn't
Okay.
recall.
You have that one, number 7?
No, she needed it.
No.
Okay.
Was it number 7?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
you need that
it was,
under tab number 7? I think you did.
oh, it's tab number 7?
Yeah, week number 7, it might say
Oh,
state
okay.
application. We're gonna be doing that in January, actually, but we're definitely gonna do this under week number 7. Okay, so next week we will start working on resumes, and if between now and then you can email a copy of your resume to me. And then after we meet next week about resumes, and we can start meeting one-on-one and going over any revisions that you want to make. Oops.
So an
Lois and I
old
are meeting
resume, one
next
that we
week.
have done, or a new
Yeah.
one that we?
Whatever you want to use as a foundation, the place you want to start from today forward.
I'd like to give you mine today, if I could,
Okay.
along with my template cover letter, just to see what
Okay.
I'd like some feedback. I have to tell you that in these 2 classes so far, I can see I'm gonna need a lot of changing in my resume, but I just want to get your input from that.
Okay. If you can email it to me, do you have
I
the
can,
ability to do that?
I can do it from home,
Okay.
because it's on my other.
Okay. Yeah, it's just real easy for me to have an emailed copy, and then I can save it, and if I just make a little change here, a little change there or something, then I
Okay,
have that.
I will do.
And it can be, Tuesdays I'm not here, Tuesdays I'm in Stockton, so it can be any day, it doesn't have to be on a Wednesday. So it could be Monday, Wednesday, or Thursday, and then I don't work at OSC on Fridays, so Monday, Wednesday, or Thursdays. Morning, afternoon, whatever
I'll
works
send it
with
to
your
you tonight.
schedule. Okay,
So
All right.
tomorrow, 12 o'clock.
tomorrow, 12 o'clock, yes, ma'am. All right, well, hopefully you have a good rest of the day.
Thank you.
And if anything comes up while you're working on any of this stuff, just give me a holler.
Okay.
If you didn't know, my desk used to be in here, and now I'm back by the coffee.
Oh, I was wondering, I saw you back there.